Welcome to the online Club Treasurer Certification Program. Thank you for your service to your community, your club, and Civitan International. The Club Treasurer PowerPoint presentation is divided into segments for your convenience. All the reports and forms in this presentation are available online at www.civitan.org and can easily be completed and emailed. After you have reviewed all segments, you must complete the certification test in order to be certified. You can only take the certification test once, so wait until you are ready before you submit your test. Now let's go through some of the primary responsibilities you will have as Club Treasurer. One of your main responsibilities will be send statements and collect dues from your membership. Pay invoices to Civitan International. Work closely with unpaid or delinquent accounts. Understand the different types of due structures. You will prepare monthly financial statements for your club. You will assist in the preparation of the club budget. As treasurer, you will need to file appropriate tax forms each year. You need to understand the significant role of the club treasurer. At each segment individually, starting with sending out statements and collecting dues. At the beginning of each month or quarter, a statement should be mailed or emailed to each of your club members. You will have the responsibility as a treasurer to prepare these and get them out on a timely basis. Work closely with your club secretary to ensure that you are sending out to a corrected membership roster, that you have the correct address or the correct email when sending them out. Discuss with the secretary prior to billing about any obligations additional to dues that these members may have incurred so that they can be added to your billing statement. Second responsibility we're going to look at is a payment of invoices. Each club should have a minimum of 2 accounts, one for administrative or operating cost, and a second, which is a service or project account. This can be run in the same banking account as long as you keep 2 different books, or as some clubs like to do, they will actually run 2 different checking accounts. The administrative or operating account is for all the administrative expenses of the club, and the income is from club dues, club meeting meals, or membership fees from your members. These monies that are collected under these categories should be used in that same operating expense. Your other project account or service project account is for your service programs that your club gets income from fundraising projects or designated contributions from members or people in your community. Again, these are designated funds and should be used towards the service or the project that they were designated for. You will have the responsibility of paying all invoices. When receiving funds from any source, you always want to make sure that you issue a receipt and enter the appropriate revenue account number on the receipt. As an example, if you were getting money in from your candy boxes, that is going to be revenue that's going to your project fund. Whereas if someone is paying you dues, that's going to go to your administrative cost. Keeping those records timely as they come in will make it a lot easier when you go to prepare statements. When authorizing payments or writing checks, always enter the account number on the request and the check stub. Again, a great reference point when you go back to balance your books. Each quarter, Civitan International will send the club a billing contact, an international dues invoice, and a club membership roster. Please compare this roster with what your secretary has to help establish the amount of money that needs to be sent in to cover your dues. Please note that your clubs will be billed for a minimum number of $150. Doesn't matter what your membership is at, you will be billed by the number of members you have or a minimum of $150. Please enclose a copy of your invoice when paying your bills to Civitan International, whether it's a due statement or whether it's something being sent in for the supply house. Make sure that the invoice copy is kept for your records and one is sent back with your payment. Separate checks should be written for projects such as Candy Box or contributions to the Civitan International Foundation. Keep your dues and your supply payments separate from those, since those are going to the foundation and have a different tax structure. Here you see an example of what Civitan International will send out as your club billing statement. This will include all of the dues that your club is due to pay in. Please be assured to tell your members that your club must prepay dues. This might encourage them to pay their dues prior to the due date of sending them into International. Remember, if they are not sent in by the time you pay this bill, that money is going to be coming out of some other account and not out of your administrative account to meet the obligation your club has to your dues. Next, let's look at unpaid or delinquent accounts. Some of our clubs are facing this in their day-to-day collection of dues money. If your due statement and reminders mailed or emailed to members fail to collect the outstanding dues that is owed to the club, the treasurer and the board should consider these following guidelines. First and foremost, never publicize a member's indebtedness. The report to the board of directors should only list a total of the amount due. Many clubs only present that report to the club president, so only the treasurer and the president knows the actual members and their account status. Confidential statements and accounts owed by whom should be limited to that club president. The treasurer will have to have the information, but he needs or she needs to make sure that is kept very private. There should be no hesitancy in contacting the member by phone. However, tact should be exercised. In some clubs, for an example, the person who has sponsored that member in would be the person who would make the first contact once the dues reach a certain level. If there's no response from that, then the president, with the authorization of the board, might take a further step to where someone makes a written request in a letter form to try to collect the dues. Be understanding when your members have delinquencies. Find out the cause of that delinquency. Make sure that you're listening carefully to what your members are going through. Everyone have things happen in their lives, and we should be a compassionate organization that takes every member's needs into consideration. Our next segment we'll look at for club treasurers the different types of due structures. Your club can establish their own dues, and it's all determined by the board and your bylaws, depending on whether it's collected quarterly, semi-annually, or annually, but always should be done in advance. Each club will have an initiation fee for a new member who is joining. That club can establish the initiation fee, but they must remember that there's a $17.50 initial membership fee, $15 of which is initiation fee, and $2.50 for liability insurance that will have to be sent in to Civitan International. The club paying the $2.50 annual liability insurance covers all Civitan clubs for acts committed by members engaged in club activities. The plan provides for up to $1 million of each occurrence and up to $2 million over the annual use of the policy. Make sure that your members understand the breakdown of the initiation fee as well as the club dues that they will be billed quarterly. Each club is required to pay to Civitan International quarterly dues. That rate right now is established at $15 per member. This is the number that you will see show up on your billing statement from Civitan International and is based on per capita for your membership. If you have a member who has left, resigned from the club, and then shows interest in rejoining, they can be reinstated without having to pay the initiation fee and only pay a reinstatement fee of $7.50. International does allow for members to transfer from one club to another at no charge. So if a member is leaving your club, make sure that you send out information and feelers into the territory they will be moving to about a Civitan club they can join. International also has a special due structure for full-time college students. They may want to join a senior Civitan club, and if they do, they're only required to pay 1/2 of the standard dues. The liability insurance remains the same. As the treasurer, make sure that you mark that on your form when you sign that new member up so that International knows to reflect that on your billing statement. You also have the opportunity with Civitan International to have members with development disabilities pay only the 1/2 standard rate. But make sure again, as the treasurer, that you note when that member joins that they fall into this dues category. Civitans have seen a lot of hard times in the last few years in the economy, and we take that into consideration. Civitan members who have become unemployed while currently involved in a club may retain their membership at no charge for up to 2 years. This information should be passed on to Civitan International, again confidentially, through your treasurer and through the Civitan collection office. They can make sure that the due structure is marked accordingly. Again, remember that's a 2-year limit, and some people are embarrassed to come forward, so make sure again understanding your membership is important. Your dues to your district are fixed by the district bylaws, and each club will pay a per capita amount as established by those bylaws. Our next segment that we're going to look into is the preparation of your club budget. You as treasurer have a vital role in the preparation of that budget. It will indicate the major expenditures and incomes and will encourage sound financial handling of your club's treasury. You need to remember that as the treasurer, part of your responsibility is to help your club be good stewards of the funds that they raise. Your club should have a financial committee that will help you, and along with the president, you will be given the task of preparing a budget to be presented to your board. It is a good practice to ask each of your standing committees to give to the president a tentative committee budget that they will need for the following year. One task that you will have will be to project the administrative and service project revenues, which will determine the amount of money the club has available for all the activities planned during the year. Project all disbursements of dues payments to district and international and to service projects. If there's enough money requested by the committees, approve each. If there's not, you will need to meet with those committee chairpersons to determine how they can either cut the amount they have requested or raise additional revenues. List the committees and their budgets, the administrative expenses, and etc. in preparing the final version of your annual budget. Assign account numbers to each line item. For example, 100 for administrative receipts, 200 for project receipts, the 300s for the administrative disbursements, and 400 for project disbursements. Again, this is just sound bookkeeping. It is not, you do not have to be a certified public accountant to be a club treasurer. Just know to keep your columns in line, make sure that you keep your receipts in order, and make sure you assign every revenue and expenditure to the right category. Again, as treasurer, you have a vital role in the preparation of the club budget. The president should share the tentative budget with the executive committee for their input and approval. If changes are made, don't take it personal. They're looking at the best interest of the club and should review closely what has been presented so far. After the board has approved the budget, publish it to your club through your newsletter or by email. But make sure that your membership gets the opportunity to review the budget before it is adopted. The budget should be monitored and adjusted as necessary. It should be looked at least quarterly. A budget is a guideline. It does not have to be in stone. It can be changed from time to time. It can only be amended once it's approved by the board. But don't be afraid to make those amendments so that the money is reported correctly. On this slide and the one to follow, you will see an example of a club budget, one that can be used to plan out your expenses and your revenues for the coming year. Take a time to look at this budget and compare it to things that your club may do. For example, we all know that you're going to have income or revenue through dues. Then we know that you'll have an expenditure through dues. But you want to break your dues expenditure down to what goes to international, what goes to the district, and what would go to your club's treasury. Things like meals or any kind of financial fundraising that you would have, such as a horse show or if you do a golf tournament. All these should be listed separately so that you can keep up with the revenue that is raised for that project. Also remember that where you have revenue, that should transfer down to your expenditure So on the golf tournament, if that's the revenue for you, then you may have expenses. Put an expense line in for the expenses that will occur during that golf tournament so that you sort of have a check and balance. Then you'll know that whatever the revenue was minus your expenditure gives you the money that's going to be left over that can then be dispersed through your budget to your different projects. On this slide, you see a worksheet that will help you in preparing your budget. It gives you the opportunity to project what you think the revenue will be from some of your projects, as well as projecting the expenses. This is a vital part of your planning because it will let you know what your net profit's going to be, or net loss if your planning's not real well. And that gives you the opportunity to see where you can help in your community, or your donations to items like Civitans at the Helm, your Junior Civitan program, maybe your Special Olympics program in your community. Take this tool as you see it here and review and evaluate where your club is today and use it as a planning tool of where you want to be tomorrow. Now let's look at preparing your monthly financial statements. They are provided to your club board at least on a quarterly basis during your board meeting. At the end of each month, it's strongly suggested that the treasurer brings all their receipts up to date in a separate ledger. You want to make sure that you have the income and the disbursements clearly stated in which category they go to. This is very important to keep the board involved in the operation of your budget. And again, you do not have to be a CPA. Just good general bookkeeping principles will work. On the next few slides, we're going to show you some examples used by a club that is given to their board each quarter so that the board is brought up to date on the financial standings of that club. Here we have an example of a standard balance sheet established by a club a few years ago. It's very easy to set up. You can use an Excel program or any other program that allows you to do a worksheet. You can even set it up where it does the formulation of the account for you. It should simply just have the date, the transaction that is incurred, a description of that transaction, the check number or reference number to the type of payment, a debit column, a credit column, and then of course the running balance. On the spreadsheet that you see here, you can see that they have made certain entries that explains what they are. For example, if you look at one of the first checks, there's a person's name, the description says meals, the check number of which it was written, and the amount. Then when you go to the far right, it shows the current balance of the checking account at the time that check was written. The next sheet that you're looking at is an example of the budget comparison to expenditures and revenue done on a monthly basis. This is an ongoing spreadsheet done in Excel. It lists all of the income and expenditure categories for the club for that year. The budget is in the next to the last column on the right hand side. That is the budget that was approved by the club. Then the treasurer has listed by month and by category every entry they have made, whether the money was coming in or whether it was going out. This gives them an up-to-date account each quarter of how much money has been spent and then compares it against the budget they approved. The far right-hand column shows them where they stand compared to the budget. The next sheet is a supporting document that just lets the board keep up to date with what the treasurer has been doing. It's a description of each check that has been written before the last report or after the last report was given. It is a way of check and balance yourself. If you use this report and the next one we're going to show you, it balances out with the spreadsheet. So everything lets you check and balance to make sure that your numbers come out correctly. And the last one is simply a description of deposits. We all have revenue coming in from different sources, and it's good to keep up with whether it's Coinbox money or a fundraiser or dues. And in this particular example, the treasurer is even listing the dues member who paid. So if there's a question in the future, he can refer right back to the date, how it was paid, and how much was paid, and by whom. The next segment that we're going to look at is to file your appropriate tax forms with the government of your country. The IRS filing requirements for Civitan clubs as tax-exempt organization requires that each club file an annual Form 990 or Form 990N. The Form 990 is if your club receipts are over $50,000. Now that's a very important number. If your club receipts are over $50,000, you must file Form 990. Form 990EZ is if your gross receipts for the year are less than $200,000 or total assets at the end of the year were less than $500,000. If you fail to meet either of these conditions, you cannot file Form 990EZ. Instead, you must refer back to file Form 990. Whichever form your club is required to do, the most important thing to do is make sure you file annually. It protects your tax-exempt organization status, and to be reinstated is a lot of paperwork. So make sure that you get online and file it online. It's very simple. It's a little card that you fill out. You can do everything electronically or with a small postcard, but do it annually to keep from losing that tax-exempt organization status. Form 990N is for your clubs that are under $50,000. Forms 990 and 990EZ can be obtained by calling your local IRS Service Center or online at www.irs.gov. For Form 990N, access it online at epostcards.form990.org. The next segment that we're going to take a few minutes in is the Employer Identification Number, or EIN. At the request of Civitan International, all Civitan clubs are assigned an EIN by the Internal Revenue Service. This specific number is used in group exemption filings and used by individual clubs for their Forms 990, Form 990EZ, or 990N. Here are the guidelines for the EIN numbers. When your club cannot locate your number, call Civitan International. Your club's EIN is maintained in the Civitan International database and is a permanent part of your club's file. Never, under any circumstances, use another club's number. Never contact the Internal Revenue Service for your club's number. The IRS will issue a new number for your club, resulting in multiple numbers being assigned to your club. If your club does not have an employer identification number, do not request one independently from the Internal Revenue Service. Civitan International files for all clubs and all districts. EINs are the parent of the organization. If your club does not have an employer identification number, do not file a Form 990 or Form 990EZ. Never send a Form 990 or 990EZ without referencing your club EIN. The Internal Revenue Service will issue a new number if this occurs. Civitan International Group Exemption Number is GEN:5431. If you have any questions or require additional information or assistance, please do not hesitate to contact at Civitan International Keith Sheffield. His number is 205-591-8910, and he may be reached at extension 105. Our final segment is understanding your role as club treasurer. The role of the club treasurer is critical for the health and well-being of any club. Knowing the financial status of the club enables the board and membership to make informed decisions on projects, grants, gifts, fundraisers, and the like. We have reviewed with you how to do financial statements, how to assist in preparing the budget, to file your appropriate tax forms, how to send out and to collect your membership dues, how to keep your dues paid regularly to Civitan International, how to handle those unpaid or delinquent accounts from your membership. And hopefully now you understand the different structures that are set up in Civitan International's dues system. You are a well-trained person with a wealth of information that will assist the president and the board in the planning of the financial well-being of your club. Use that position as an opportunity to teach them and to help them make sound decisions financially, not just for next year, but for many years to come. Now that we have gone through all of the segments of the treasurer training, it's time to overview the certification program. Now that you've completed reviewing all of the segments, you must complete the certification test in order to be certified as the club treasurer. If you feel unsure of any aspect of your responsibilities, please go back and review them again prior to taking the test. Once you have done that and you feel confident that you are ready to move forward, then take the test by going to the icon online that says Treasurer Online Certification Test. Fill out all of the information and answer each test question. It is not a time test, so please take your time and do your best. Once you have answered all of the test questions, and at the end of the test, you will see a grade quiz button. Once you click that button, your test results will appear with correct or incorrect answers and your grade. These test results will also automatically be sent to Civitan International by email for your club certification. Good luck.